Hey there, YouTube land, and I guess tonight's a different type of video for me. I'm doing one on my collection of nighttime shows, nighttime soap operas, and to be specific. So, if you're a fan of nighttime soap operas and you're watching this, I want to thank you for watching. If you're just like the videos and you're watching this, even though you're not a fan of nighttime soap operas, I really want to thank you for watching. Here's the thing. The soap opera genre, yeah, it is kind of a genre. For me, was a gateway to other things that I would get into. It definitely was a gateway to some of the horror and some of the mystery that I would find over the years. Soap operas, especially nighttime ones, soap operas could be like, they were on like every day. The daytime soap operas were so a lot of stories, characters, and stuff would have to get recycled. After all, we've got a show that's going on about 200 to 300 times a year. So yeah, stories get recycled, people get used over and over again. But a lot of great people liked to watch soap operas. Elizabeth Taylor actually acted on General Hospital as the original Helena Cassadine because she was a huge fan of the series. But they were talking about the nighttime shows, and you may kind of be aware of some of the shows that came out. There's a lot I don't have. One of the quickest ways to get to my heart is a soap opera type of series on DVD, and my better half knew that when she bought me the Dark Shadows set because now, although that's not here, because one, it's way too freaking heavy, and two, it kind of came on in the daytime, so it doesn't really qualify for the nighttime soap opera. I do have The Secrets of Coronation Street. See, over there in the UK, guys, Coronation Street, or Corey, as some of the fans like to call it, is it's kind of a daytime show. Over here, we get into nighttime, and we get it in kind of an omnibus format on Sundays. You can also buy it on iTunes. One of the few soaps you can do that. You can also buy the only season of Prospect Park's One Life to Live in on My Children on iTunes. Those are soap operas for people that just want to get into it and want to see shows that go fast because of the limited time space and amounts of days per week they had. Their stories tend to go really, really fast. But let's get into the nighttime stuff. If I was going to put everything here that I consider a nighttime soap opera, it would be a lot of stuff. Let me put it to you this way. You've probably watched, and you probably are watching right now, a nighttime soap opera without even realizing it. If you've spent any time around watching Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, then congratulations, you have been brought into the world of nighttime soap operas, because Walking Dead is about soap operas as it gets. I mean, there are some soap operas that do not have as much soap opera-ish aspects as The Walking Dead does. And the same thing with Game of Thrones. It's a soap opera with dragons and swords. And you know what? Some soap operas actually do have the swords. But I'm not going to bring those in tonight. I'm going to mention some other ones. I could have brought in my True Blood, which would be another of the kind of the soaps that lasted for a while. That one did, went from the books. And, some people say, no, that's not a soap opera because it came from a book. But so did Peyton Place and stuff like that. So, yeah, a lot of them do come from books. Let's start out with the one modern day one that I really did put on this collection. One really modern day one. And one that you probably watched at least one or two episodes of. And that's Mad Men. Mad Men is an amazing show. If you haven't seen it, it's a period show. It's got all the trappings of like the twisted characters, the deceit, lies, deception, and a lot of heart for this show, surprisingly. But Mad Men was a great, great show, and went 7 seasons. I think it's in its last half of its 7th season right now. I have seasons 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Mad Men. For some of these soaps, I'm going to stop. I'm going to talk about certain storylines and stuff that I like, in hopes that maybe it'll interest you into at least checking some of this stuff out. And maybe we'll learn something together. Maybe you can teach me something in the comment section down below. By the way, guys, if you watch soap operas, awesome. You could, because, if you watched the pay-per-view the other night, Fastlane, if you're watching Raw, that's a soap. That's a male soap. And pretty honest about saying it. There used to be a time there was a stigma about saying that, but the W pretty much says it right now. Except right now, it went from the '90s Attitude Era, actually like a really full-blown soap opera, into a kiddies soap opera type of thing with a lot of the stuff they do now. So I'm going to put these back. Soap operas and drama series have a lot in common. There's a few things that'll bring it over, just push it over to the edge to being one or the other, but all the shows that I mentioned fit in both criterias. But let's get to some of the other ones I got. Some ones that I'm interested in showing. First two series are from Volume 1 and 2. So Series 1 and 2. A little show in BBC by the name of Skins. Skins was an incredibly cool show. And if you like Doctor Who, especially today's Doctor Who, well, Peter Capaldi actually is in this. And you want to see what happens to Peter Capaldi in this one. Skins, the UK version, not the American version. Steer clear of that one. UK version was just an amazing show, and it went into some aspects that you wouldn't normally expect for a show about like teenagers. They weren't the nice, good teenagers that you would see in a lot of shows, like Beverly Hills 90210 in the old days, on shows like that. But these were very flawed, very dark characters. There were some very pretty people, but there were some very realistic-looking people. And if you haven't checked out the series Skins, soap opera or not, you should really check it out. It's a great show. Gothic soap operas probably started with Dark Shadows, followed by shows like Strange. Oh my God. I used to watch this all the time too. It's a Canadian one. Strange. I have to look that up. So, strange. Alrighty. Okay, come on. Strange Paradise. Strange Paradise was a Dark Shadows ripoff. I wish I had the show, but I don't. I don't think it's ever been released onto a DVD, or if it has, I haven't got it. But the latest in the long line of Gothic soap operas came out this year, and it wowed a lot of people. And some people really didn't see it, and you really should. Whether you like soap operas or not, you're going to love this kind of horror-esque show, and it is Penny Dreadful. Josh Hartnett, Eva Green. Man, who else we got? We have Timothy Dalton, Rory Kinnear, Billie Piper, and yes, as usual, Billie Piper gets the per-exit nudity scene that she likes to do in a lot of her shows now. I think it started with Secret Diary of a Call Girl, and no, I am definitely not complaining. But if you've not checked out Penny Dreadful, you really, really should. Next up is the modern day rendition of Dallas. This ran for 3 seasons, and incredible show as it was, I could see the writing on the wall once Larry Hagman passed away. The show itself did continue, in my opinion, to really kind of push the envelope on what it did and go in unique directions and actually really do a great job. Some of the storylines were pretty damn fantastic. The Who Shot and Actually Killed JR storyline was a little predictable. But aside from that, I thought the show did a great job overall, especially in its establishing season. The establishing season of Dallas is my favorite of the 3. Reason being, characters were introduced, and there was let's put it this way, it has a great ending and a fantastic twist. Lead actor here is Josh Henderson, and the show rides a lot on this guy right here. If the only thing you've seen him in is April Fool's Day, the remake, then I'm sorry. But I apologize for that, because he's actually a good actor, and when they were looking to fill the shoes, and they were really hard shoes to fill, of Larry Hagman's character of JR, by having his young offspring kind of take over the role. They did it the right way. He didn't come out. He was brash. He was cocky. He was self-assured, but he wasn't JR, and that's a good thing. He wasn't the same character. Uh, at times, it seemed much. He did JR like things. If you know J.R. Ewing was the main villain of soap operas, of nighttime soaps of all time. He was the guy. Larry Hagman had come on and been on a show for 14 years. In the third season, they go to, well, something happens then. Thanks to a writer strike, it gets to be really, really important. So if you haven't checked this out, give it a shot. I'm sure it's on Netflix somewhere right now. And trust me, stuff like this you get addicted to. Here's one that they haven't brought back yet, and I gotta be honest, I'm really surprised. I grabbed this edition secondhand, as you'll see, because I could never get off the sticker, and it drives me up the wall. I really do want to own all of these. I only own the first 2 seasons, and this is probably one of my favorites. The show was called Dynasty. Dynasty Season 1, Dynasty Season 2. Now, The Colbys, which was a spin-off of Dynasty, is coming out by Shout Factory this year. It's $82 for the complete series. The show ran for 2 seasons, and there were many changes over the seasons. And the way it ends, well, it's otherworldly. Let's just say that. But Dynasty started out different. It started out unique. If you've ever seen Dynasty, even if you've heard about it in the later years, what you usually think about first is Joan Collins. And Joan Collins played Alexis Carrington. She was like the kind of like the self-assured woman, the bad girl. She was the female JR of Dynasty. See, when this show started, it had Blake Carrington, who was an extremely uber rich guy, who was marrying his secretary, Crystal, who was played by Linda Evans. Now, Blake's character was originally supposed to be a harder, rougher, meaner, more evil character, and you see that in the beginning of the show. However, the actor that played him, John Forsythe, didn't really feel comfortable in that role, and he didn't think that him going forward and doing that was going to do anything for him or for the character. He felt the character should be softened and go in a different direction. He was correct. John Forsythe, that's a bad guy, and the way that they were writing him would have probably sunk the show. Meanwhile, at this point, they weren't sure about, like, they had half of them were rich, and the other half were like the poor side. You'd see this happen on a lot of shows, especially in a lot of soap operas. They have like this rich side and this poor side. And here's the thing that always happens: even the poor side gets rich, because when people watch shows like this, they watch it as kind of a wish fulfillment, as a way to get away from like the reality and the humdrums of actual like life. So seeing the people that are just like you, that are poor or are struggling, can be interesting, and works better on a UK show, I find, a lot of cases. But on a lot of North American shows, the more realistic slant on it just doesn't work as well as its more fantastical side. And so the characters of the Blaisdells were in the first season, and were considered the heroes of the first season, would be taken out, and for one of the characters would later be vilified. And the ones that were allowed to stay in there, well, obviously they hooked up somebody that was rich on the show and became rich themselves, or rich by proxy. Even the characters that weren't considered rich were always well-to-do in jobs that put them into like high prominence, or would surround them with the more complex, richer characters. The first season of Dynasty, originally titled Oil, by the way, the first episode was called, it was good, but it was just getting there. And one of the big things of this, and it's become more prominent now, I know this is not a big deal now, but back then, when Dynasty came out, this was back in the 80s, it was a huge deal, in that the true hero, the true main lead character of Dynasty is gay. Is a gay character by the name of Stephen Carrington. And obviously, it still matters a lot. If you've seen all the big uproar over a Walking Dead character, just imagine that. There's a character on The Walking Dead by the name of Aaron. Same name as me. Uh, this character just happens to be gay. It caused a huge uproar within the series. Well, a lot of people like, I can't. I'll watch the show with my kids. Okay, one, what the hell are you doing watching The Walking Dead with your kids? If you are, hope to God that you're not the type of person that thinks that, oh, gayness is bad, but hey, cannibalism and violence, that's okay. Like, I think all of it's okay. I'll be honest with you. Well, I don't want cannibalism and violence in real life. I like the fact that it's fantasy, and if you have kids or people that are watching that, please, watch something like that with them and make sure they understand it. And then don't be that narrow-minded jackass who, watches a little kid shoot his kind of his father figure, one of his best friends, in the head, and then and doesn't blink an eye, and then balks at the fact when two dudes kiss on screen. Because, yeah, grow up. Dynasty had the character of Stephen Carrington, who was the gay character. He was played for 2 seasons by the actor Al Corley. When he decided to bring a female in there, played by Heather Locklear, to kind of spice up the show and to show that maybe he wasn't completely gay after all. Yes, they went that way with it. They compromised and brought the character in as actually, one of his boyfriends on the show was played by Batman. Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, played on Dynasty as Steven's boyfriend, if I remember correctly. He was a lawyer. This show got much more fantastical in the second season. See, Joan Collins didn't come in the first season. She came in the second. In fact, when her character was introduced, it wasn't even her, because at the time, Joan Collins' character wasn't cast for the show Dynasty. They actually, you just had this girl basically walk through. I think it was like a wife or something with one of the cast or crew. I can't remember right now. It's been a while since I watched it. But people remember this as peaking and maybe dropping or peaking, depending on what you think of it, in its 6th season. I know that you're watching this, so Parsnip Burger, would you like to tell people about the 6th season of Dynasty in the comment box down below? Because I'm sure you have lots of things to say about it. Lord knows we all do about the massacre and the deaths and the over-the-top thing. I loved it. Not everybody did. But I digress. Next up is, unfortunately, I only have 2 of these. I really wanted to get all the show, and I found these at a where was it? A charity shop. Yes, at a Salvation Army for like $2.99 and $4.99 respectively. It was Melrose Place. Now, I'm a huge fan of the show. It's one of the shows I watched pretty much all the way through. I love these Melrose Place sets. This one here actually has 9 discs. Incredible show. Just really cool. Bad guys. Like a lot of daytime soap opera stars actually made it over, kind of transversed into nighttime territory here, and did so very well. And some of these that were on Melrose Place would later go back onto what will become a lucrative daytime TV. And some of them would just go on to do many other different things. But if you've seen Melrose Place, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. This season here, let's see, this is one of my favorites. Yeah, they started bringing some of the daytime characters. We had characters like Patrick Muldoon, who have been in Days of Our Lives, come on here. Who's Patrick Muldoon? If you watch Starship Troopers, you probably know who he is. He's an actor. Daphne Zuniga, who you've seen in the movie The Shore Thing, or if you're really, really lucky, The Initiation, which is a slasher film that I consider really good. Marcia Cross, of course, who would later go on to do Desperate Housewives. Courtney Thorne-Smith, who would unfortunately go on to do the Jim Belushi series that he had. And a cast of others that would go on to do many different things. Thomas Calabro, for instance, would go on to another soap opera type show called Glee, where he would play the dad of one of the more kind of slacker, less disciplined characters, which really suited his character. The only other season I've got of Melrose Place, unfortunately, is the 5th season, Volume 2. So I got the 4th season, I got 5th season, Volume 2. Volume 1, sorry. Why did I say Volume 2? Hold on a second. This is a unique thing. This is the 5th season, Volume 1. These discs are for the 5th season, Volume 1. That being said, the inside of it here, the writing for the synopsises, actually reads the 5th season, Volume 2. So I had to look at my disc again to make sure I had the right ones. So, neat, huh? Sadly, my only Knots Landing. It came back on again and they redid it. It had a cool little murder mystery to it. I dug it, but a lot of people didn't, but I thought it was a really cool one. Dallas was a popular show, and you'll see my Dallas collection in a minute. I want to really talk about that a little bit more. But what you will see is my Knots Landing right now. Knots Landing was a spin-off of Dallas. It was done very differently, and it was meant to originally be pretty low-key. It was going to be the more realistic, less kind of backstabby, aspect of kind of Dallas. More low-key. Gone will be the big hats and the wheeling and dealing. It'll be closer, more family knit stuff. It'd be a cul-de-sac, a group of interconnected families. It'd be getting back to the roots of what a lot of the original nighttime soaps were, and that didn't last because that's boring. That's really boring sometimes, and they realized that pretty soon. And let's just say characters died. A lot of characters died. A lot of characters came in. One of the main characters came in was a detective by the name of Mac. Would become extremely popular. There'd be characters who would fake their deaths. There'd be killers, stalkers, cartels. So yeah, Knots Landing would go the way of Dallas and Dynasty, but still try to keep a bit of a grassroots feel to it. Did it always succeed? No. Did that hurt the show? No. Actually, it helped it. And to make the show go really well, to make the start go okay, he actually had Dallas's cast members Jer for sure, and of course I think Charlene Tilton was in it. I'm not sure if Bobby showed up or not, but yeah, a few people showed up. Now, one season of Dallas has something happen that changed Knots Landing forever, which we'll get to. Season 2 is when they started to really amp it up. They brought in Abby. And again, basically that's their Joan Collins. She's more, she's sexier. She's brings people into the show, and the stories get more start to go faster. You're starting to see there's characters that are on the first episode of Knots Landing that you're not going to see after the first episode of Knots Landing, and one in particular. But the first 2 seasons, unfortunately, the only 2 that came out on DVD, I think, like this. I think the rest of them came out on kind of like some of them anywhere on DVD on demand, kind of like the way they did it, Warner Archives type of thing. So if I want to get more Knots Landing, I got to go to Warner Archives. If I want to get more Melrose Place, I don't know. I can't find it around here. I've been looking for ages. Dallas. I have the first 2 seasons of Dallas. Some people consider the first season of Dallas a miniseries. It ran 6 episodes, and wasn't really connected aside from kind of had an over arc of 2 kind of star-crossed couple, a very Romeo and Juliet character, 2 families that were feuding, and they went off and they married and they came back and they surprised their family, and a lot of cool stuff happened. On into the second season, Dallas, for the beginning of it, still we had kind of like a lot of single stories, single episode stories. You'd see certain things kind of tie in, but overall, most episodes could stand on their own. This would continue, not even into the second season of Dallas. You would slowly see it becoming more and more serialized, and as it did, become more and more popular. Now, a while back, I loaned out my second season of Dallas. So, unfortunately, I haven't got that one back yet. But wanting to watch it again, while I was working with it, there's a store that had a huge sale. A secondhand shop, charity shop, and I went down to it and saw this here. Without the slip though, but good until my other one comes back. The complete first and second season of Dallas. There's a nice little slip cover that goes on this with the South Fork Ranch on the front of it. And I'll get that one back in a few months, but because I may be rewatching the whole thing again soon, thought it'd be nice to have this. The first couple seasons kind of deal with a lot of the star-crossed family feud type of thing, and the characters are strongly introduced, although some characters change a lot. The character of Ray is a bad guy in the beginning of the series Dallas, and Ray would, honestly, the actor Steve Canale just didn't do it as a bad guy. He was much more realistic as a as a good guy. And as for some of the other actors on there, one of the big storylines the first two seasons is a bit something called the Red File, and I won't spoil it for you if you're ever going to watch this, but it has Tina Louise from Gilligan's Island, who plays the secretary, and the Red File is something that one of the characters in Dallas pays for with their life. It's an interesting storyline, and it sets up things that'll follow through later on in the series. Dallas tended to do that. It paid its fans back for its loyalty, and really did so in some big ways. Dallas entered its third season when it really kind of became the serialized show. This would be the season that would create TV history. Like I mentioned before, Who Shot JR? This season of the show ended with the main character, J.R. Ewing, the evil, the bad guy, being shot as he's coming out of his office at Ewing Oil. Now, that might seem like a big thing right now, but at the time, J.R. was one of the biggest characters on TV. It had been known in the media that he had been renegotiating his contract, and people were kind of wondering, what was it? Was he going to live, for one, and two, who exactly shot him? There was a few theories that went around. They even wrote a book where you could win money if you guessed who shot JR. And then, as if magic happens on certain times to fuel the frenzy of everything and to really make things go in a direction that you really don't expect, there was a writer's strike. Strike that lasted for a while, and that meant that Dallas did not come back on when it was originally supposed to. So, Who Shot JR had to be a storyline that we waited longer to hear about. But we would hear about it in the media. We would hear all kinds of stuff about it. And thanks to the writer's strike, it grew in popularity more than you can even imagine. And from then on, Dallas was famous for a couple things. It reintroduced and brought back the cliffhanger for the end of the season. I can honestly tell you that the cliffhanger wasn't a big thing before Dallas. But after Who Shot JR got the ratings that it did, after it got the publicity and marketing and just amazingly did what it did, I can honestly say a hell of a lot of shows, even shows that you wouldn't think would have cliffhangers, just suddenly randomly found the end of their season with a cliffhanger. Some were literal. I think even maybe Murder Show or something like that once had or came close to having a cliffhanger. And it's neat to see that it actually affected that much. It shows that weren't even remotely shows that kind of had or needed or deserved cliffhangers were having some comedy having cliffhangers. People just wanted to like catch the wave of this whole like craze. The other shows coming, Dynasty and the Dallas, we spun off to its own series, all because of like the popularity that started with this season right here. It was like the Twin Peaks, which I don't have down here. I got upstairs right now because I'm watching some. Is the other one that's in my collection. It's a Blu-ray set, and it's the Twin Peaks Complete Collection. It was one of those big shows, and got like huge ratings talked about. So this was the Twin Peaks season of the first season of Twin Peaks. This is like that. So if you were around long enough ago to understand the popularity of Twin Peaks in the day, or if you even understand the popularity of it now, or the popularity of Game of Thrones right now, this was the Game of Thrones of its time. It was really that popular. That many people were really talking about it. If you weren't one of the people that watched it on Friday night, you probably weren't one of the people that were talking about it, or in the know enough to really talk about it, or you fake that you watched it on Monday morning. Everybody talked about the show. There's no internet back then, so people watched shows, and those were things that were talked about often at work and at school. And Dallas was the hot button on everyone's list. So, third season, if you haven't wanted to start anywhere, I'd say start with the original 2 seasons, but third season, just amazing. And 25 episodes, by the way, guys. The 4th season, I had to answer that question. They had to answer who shot JR, and that was a hard one to do. Because, see, it gained popularity because of the fact that the show was knocked off the air for a longer length of time. So the anticipation factor was strong. But that being said, the anticipation factor was really strong. So coming in and giving us a solid actor who we would believe their motivation for shooting JR wasn't the easiest thing to do. And add on to that they now knew that the cliffhanger was going to be the thing that they were going to be doing from season to season, trying to up itself every single year. Season 4 was a really big transitional year for Dallas. The first season or two were finding the first 2 seasons were finding their way up. It was slowly becoming serialized. We're establishing the characters from what they were into what they would become. The state was that you would see them as for many years to come later. But season 3 was really that banner year, that kind of breakthrough year that did really well with the show. So season 4 was really going to be a make or break season. With 23 episodes, one of the actual shorter seasons of the house, aside from the original 6-episode first season, they actually pulled it off. They pulled off a 4th season that stood up to the Who Shot JR climax that could actually sink a show. If that wouldn't have done well, if they wouldn't have had strong writing and a strong grasp of the characters at the time, something that's as big as Who Shot JR could be, this is it. This is the pinnacle. It's down from here. But for Dallas, it was far from down from here. Season 4 was a really decent year. We got to find out who shot JR. There would be a mysterious death at the end of the season where we would have to wait till the next season to find out exactly who it was that was dead in that pool. And we see some weddings. We see some really cool power struggles, which would go on throughout the series of Dallas. The 5th season was the first bump for Dallas, and the first time that you realize that the show really can do well. The 5th season had 26 episodes, but the biggest and hardest thing for this is that Jock Ewing, played by Jim Davis, a Western actor, was one of the anchors of the show. He was stern. You could be mean. You could be nice. But he was, he was definitely, this was a big part of the series. He was who JR looked to. He was the father. He was the one that could rein him in or let him loose. depending on how he needed to. Well, unfortunately, Jim Davis got extremely sick. Jim Davis passed away. So the character of Jack Ewing was not recast, as is done on many of the soap operas. Out of respect to the character and the amazing work that he did on the show, they killed off his character off screen. This would be an extreme. This is another thing that could kill the show. This is an extremely popular character, but they brought in some new characters, some younger characters. He brought back and recasted the role of the brother, and they realized that with Jack Ewing's death, they had to pay kind of a reverence to it, like a respect, especially for the actor and the work that he'd done. But they could utilize it in the right way, and the way they did that was to create, and this will start over the 5th and 6th season, a power struggle. And it will go on actually through the whole series between JR and the good brother, Bobby, for control of Ewing Oil. Because this wasn't Jack wasn't the man to give a will where it's just, okay, you've got this, and no, JR automatically has it because he's the one that's been running it basically with Jack for a long time. No, there's a contest, and the winner gets control of Ewing Oil. Guess well, the majority control. So that started in this season. We got to see a lot of different stuff here, and for me, this was kind of although the strongest season, this had the weakest cliffhanger of any season of Dallas. Season 6 would continue the struggle, the fight. We would see a darker side of the character of Bobby, who had been pretty much the good guy all along. He would still be the good guy, but the will, which would really become in the prominence in the 6th season, actually, this is when the will thing comes into it. Really, really, really gave a different aspect to the show. They fought for control of Ewing Oil. They brought in new characters. They just mixed things up. And characters that you think are lasting forever, well, they break up. And characters that you think are gone forever, well, they get back together. Now, this series ran 20 episodes this season did. And it had a fiery conclusion. I did like the ending of this season right here, actually. Has some unique, different stuff on it. Season 7 of Dallas was a different year. They brought in some interesting characters, some unusual casting choices. Not bad casting choices, it's just unusual. Chris Atkins, who had done The Blue Lagoon and some other stuff, was brought in as kind of taking care of a young John Ross. He was and became like kind of a May December romance for the character of Sue Ellen. Now, many people would love Chris Atkins for he was a good-looking young man, but his acting ability is not the greatest on the show, and it really stood out amongst a lot of the other cast members. He did the best he could, bless him, but they actually had another character by the name of Mark Grayson, who would kind of take over the Bobby role to a certain extent of being Pam's love interest. Now, Mark Grayson was a character that was meant to be really big on the show, but with him coming between the fan favorite characters of Pam and Bobby, it was pretty much doomed from the beginning. Well, he would have been. Something would happen. Something would happen that would change that, and we'll get to that. But as far as like season enders go, this one here, if I remember correctly, was actually a pretty decent one. How many episodes did this season go? 30. Yep. And this is where Miss Ellie meets and marries her love after Jock, because Miss Ellie is the mother of Bobby and Jar. She's the after Jock's left the show, like she had a really brave storyline early on with breast cancer. She has to deal with having mastectomy, and it became a really big part of her show and her character. She even goes to the point where she not sure if she feels like female. This is it's a strong part of a feminine identity, and it's being taken away. Jock isn't quite sure how to handle it at times, and it became an interesting and a really well done storyline. So after Jock's passing, it would be easier for her to get lost in the shuffle. And to a certain extent, she kind of did. She was still the heart of the show. She was still kind of the backbone and the moral center. When Bob wasn't around to do that, but she also became the part of the show that kind of fell farther in the back as more of the younger storylines came into it. And just like Aunt May and Spider-Man, she's there, but she's not always a presence that she will be in certain storylines. The character of character of Clayton Farlow would bring her back to more prominence. Although Clayton would take over the Jock role, he was never meant to be a replacement for Jock. He wasn't Jock. He was a very different character, and he actually got along with some of the other people more. And his character was introduced in a way that was unique as well. But season I want to talk about. Yeah. Season 8. Season 8 would bring a lot of new stuff to the show. We would see a very, very different style to the series start to come out. See, Patrick Duffy, who played Bob Ewing, was extraordinarily popular at this time. Patrick Duffy, before this, had made the series Man from Atlantis. And although I thought it was a cool show when I was a kid, probably didn't do the best or at establishing him as a serious, leading man. Of course, years later, Patrick Duffy would do the comedy series Step by Step with Suzanne Summers and do it for years. This show would make him. And after 8 seasons, Patrick Duffy realized, I think I've done it. I think I've done what I wanted to do. I think I've hit the wall. I think I'm going to go. You could have heard a pin drop when Patrick Duffy said he wanted to go. But not just go, definitively go. If Patrick Duffy was going to go, he wanted to be the only character really that played Bobby. And that only actor that played the character Bobby. And he wanted to give his character an ending. So, one thing Patrick Duffy wanted when he left the series, since he was sure 110% he was never ever going to come back on this series, he was done. He did everything he could with the Bobby character. He was going to go on. He was going to make movies. He had offers out there, some really good film offers, and he did do some films. He said, okay, let's go all the way with it. Let's kill off the character of Bobby Ewing. Definitively, once and for all, kill him off. Let the show go from there whichever way it wants to. Now, they do. Bobby Ewing's character is killed off. He's not only killed off, we see him die. We watch him watch his family around his bedside as his character expires. We see his funeral. Over on the sister show, Knots Landing, they talk about the death of Bobby. They even have one of the characters who has a baby name their child Bobby after their dead uncle. And it would be a big shocker. Not the biggest shocker. That's coming. But a big shocker nonetheless. Season 9. for many people, season 9 was considered the the different season, the season where people oh, one more thing I mentioned with season 8. I think it's season 8. Let me check, because something here that has been mentioned. The show at Dallas did not often do recasting. Nothing that was noticeable. Nothing that you would really kind of get, you'd notice. But in one season of Dallas, they did something surprising. And I want to make sure I have the right season. So here we go. Yeah, I know. Annoying, isn't it? But I want to get this right for you guys. This is the character of Miss Ellie. See if you can see that. Older lady, played by Barbara Bel Geddes. Barbara Bel Geddes, many of you guys know as being on there for well, she was in the movie A Rear Window with Jimmy Stewart. Now, in the 8th, I think it was the 8th season, pretty sure, 8th or 9th season, pretty sure it's the 8th. Wait a second. Here's the thing. Dallas has two basically kind of like runnings. There's the season, I don't know about this, where okay, this is actual the 8th season on here, and this 8th season is where people don't consider the first season a season. Some people consider that season 2 was actually kind of season 1. So there's a different numbering for some people. But yeah, the 8th season actually had this actress here, Donna Reed, play a much more kind of a fancier Miss Ellie. She wasn't the character that Barbara Bel Geddes was. Barbara Bel Geddes was very much the homespun, tough as nails type of character. And Donna Reed was flashier. She was more glamorous, and she took over the role when Barbara Bel Geddes wanted to leave. Unfortunately, it didn't go that well, and Barbara Bel Geddes was asked to come back. Donna Reed was taken off the show. She actually sued the series. She was heartbroken when she was taken off the show, and Donna Reed was someone that was dealing with a life-threatening illness that would actually sadly take her life. And some people said that she never really got over going off of Dallas. It was a serious setback. The working on the show did a lot for her and did a lot for her spirit and her drive, but it hurt her a lot when she had to leave, and she felt a little bit betrayed, and I can understand that. So when Bobby died, one of the first things he had to do was, well, they brought back the original Sally, because this was going to be a huge storyline. It's going to be really big. Bobby's death. So what happened when they killed Bobby? Well, for one, the character Mark Grayson, who left town because, well, he was getting sick, he was going to die, all of a sudden is, he comes back and he's better. Um, we get to see Sue Ellen, the wife, long-suffering wife of JR, and alcoholic character, go down to the depths of her character. Basically, hit literal rock bottom, homeless, like in jail. Sue Ellen. We get to see this happen, and we get to see a lot of things happen. We get to see like cartels, new characters brought into the show. We get to meet a mysterious character that knows way more about the Jock Ewing character than anybody can know without actually being Jock Ewing. This would be one of the most intriguing years of Dallas you'd ever see. Barbara Carrera was brought into the series as kind of a foreign evil oil character. Murder, intrigue. There's a lot brought in here. Dick Rambo's brought into the series. Generally, Harrison was brought into the series. And we got to see a lot of characters grow. It was probably the greatest year of growth for the character of Sue Ellen Ewing that you would see on the original series of Dallas. But at the end of the season, at the absolute end of this season, episode number 31, we see the character Pam Ewing get up out of bed, walk into the bathroom, and open up her shower. And smiling back at her is her husband Bobby, who died at the end of season 8. For how the next season would start, we would kind of be wondering, just like we were back in the day of Who Shot JR, but slightly different. How is Bobby in the shower? Is it a twin? Did he escape? Did he clone the character? Did somehow him not be was there some reason that he was not actually dead? Dallas took the most amazingly unique way out of this that you can imagine. A lot of movies have done this over the years, but I can't think of any shows that really did it, especially to this extent. This entire season, all the characters that were introduced, all the character growth of the character Sue Ellen, the getting back together of Sue Ellen and JR, the kind of like the completion of their storyline, the craziness, the Jock Ewing character that looks like is going to come out as actual Jock Ewing with like plastic surgery. Played so well, by the way, in this season. It's a dream. This whole season is a dream. Nothing on here that happens really matters because none of the characters or anything that's established for this entire season means anything. Mark Grayson's character is still gone. He's still the deathly ill, maybe dead character. The characters that died off, and there was a lot of them, because he had one hell of a ending for the end of the season, were there or they weren't there at all. And the mysterious character that knew way too much about Jock, he'd come back with a different name in the next season, but his storyline would be watered down. It wouldn't work the way that it did in the season beforehand, and in the attempt to really kind of like steamroll over everything that had been done in the previous season, even though his story was still there because it was intriguing, it was relegated to being taken care of almost off screen, and it just, you could blink your eye and miss the resolution of the storyline, which is a real shame because they found the actor that could do the role, that could take over the job, and they wasted it. They wasted a lot. They should have thought of a better way to bring back Bobby, but they didn't. And it remains one of the most talked about and controversial moments of TV history, not just soap history, not just like daytime TV, not just nighttime TV history, but TV history period, when Dallas decided to bring back the character of Bobby by making a complete season of the show a dream. Just imagine that. We're not talking about just any season. We're talking about season 8 and a 30 episode season. So if that's 30 episodes that who've been watching the show at the time you've been watching the show, you've invested 30 episodes of a serialized story into these characters, into all these new storylines, into all the stuff that was set up for you, only to have it thrown out the window in the last 5 minutes of that season, so they could bring back the character of Bobby. So how did it work? Well, Dynasty had become extremely popular around this time, so they wanted to make more stronger female characters. And here's the thing: Dynasty and Dallas are not the same show. People can look at like nighttime shows sometimes and say, "No, they're all the same." But no, they're not. There's a strong male presence in Dallas, as strong as there's a female presence in Dynasty. And although there are some strong female characters in Dallas, it didn't work as well. A lot of the female characters anchored the series of Dynasty. A lot of the male characters anchored the series of Dallas, and that was kind of the way it went. And when Dallas tried to switch that around and try and do different stuff, that it didn't work out so well. Though we did get some good characters brought in around this time. This is where we have the Jock storyline, but not done as well. We have basically the mercenary storyline. This would be the most transitional year for Dallas ever. It would have to come back. Everybody would be watching it because they want to know how Bobby came back, and they'd be watching to see what would go on after that. Fortunately, what would go on after that would be a bit of a train wreck of a season. There were good parts, there were bad parts. It wouldn't be the worst season, but it wouldn't be the best. And watching this was a mixed bag. Season 11 of Dallas, well, we'd see characters kind of starting to go. They'd bring in some newer characters. See if we can see any of the names of the characters they brought in here. I don't think so, but Nicholas. I know. When else did I watch this? I gotta rewatch this again. But there's some characters here that I really gotta say, yeah, were interesting, but just didn't have the intrigue that some of the other ones had. So Nicholas Pierce, yeah. Although Andrew Stevens will be in the season, which I would really enjoy as his character coming there. I'm a big fan of the actor Andrew Stevens, so seeing him come on the show was it's a big plus for me. It was probably this series here that actually made me a fan of Andrew Stevens, and not vice versa. The 11th season of Dallas would be, well, everybody going against JR again, because at this point he was pissing everybody off. But it would end with a bang of sorts. Decent ending. Characters would leave. Was the biggest character that left? Well, sadly, a while back, they lost the character of Pam. Pam was Bobby's love of his life, and when they had a chance to bring her back, they didn't do it in the new series, which was one of the biggest failures of that series. They really had the chance to bring her back, and they should have done it. Even if they had left her off screen for a little bit until they could negotiate her being on there, or an actress to take over the role. And yeah, I think an actress could have taken over the role. The character of Pam was really missed on the series. It would have added a dynamic that I think, if it would have been done, would have brought in new viewers and would have got them to a brand new, basically another season released. season 12. New characters are introduced, old characters are brought back, and 26 episodes. Jared goes on a trip. He seduces a girl. He gets her pregnant. He's made marry her. Shotgun wedding. Watch it. Seriously, it's not one of the best seasons. The girl who played his wife on that show, you'll probably know if you're one of my horror fans here that's watching this video. Thank you for watching this hour-long video if you have. It was played by Kathy Caldwell, who was in Night of the Demons. She was the star of that movie. Yeah, that was the one that's the girl that survived. Well, she played Jared's actual final wife in the series of Dallas. After Pam's character was killed, well, then Bobby went on to meet another character, a character of April, and April would be like an interesting character that would marry Bobby, and Bobby would seem happy, and then it would kill off the character of April too by using a daytime soap opera diva, Susan Lucci, in the role, and it wasn't too bad. There was some pretty sad stuff in there, and as this goes along, we're seeing a lot of new actors that are being brought in that really aren't at all the quality of the actors that have been on the show before. You notice like a real drop in quality. I mean, you had guys like Sasha Mitchell, who I'm sure was an attractive girl for a lot of the ladies and stuff out there, but man, Sasha Mitchell, a lot of you may remember from a couple things. One, well, the kind of spousal abuse thing that happened to him back in the day, but most people remember him as being kind of the playing the dumb character on a show called Step by Step, which also starred good old Bobby Ewing. This is April, the character that Bobby would marry, and they would go to Paris and have a romantic vacation where she would be murdered, because it has to teach you one thing if it doesn't teach you anything. That's if you're on a soap, if you're on Dallas, stay the hell away from Bobby Ewing, because it's going to get you killed. Except for the new series. So there we go. I went through Dallas probably way more in depth than you wanted me to, and if you're really a fan of Dallas, probably less in depth than you wanted me to. I didn't mention a lot of storylines I was going to. I kept it to mostly the core characters, basically, because I wanted to keep it down and not get too confusing with what I was talking about. I could have went in and I could have talked about other characters, like I could have talked about Cliff, I could have talked about Donna and Ray, and the character Charlie and her growing up, the fact that Brad Pitt was on the series Dallas, and that many actors like that would go on to more prominence would be in the series as well, and maybe some other time I'll do a Dallas video about that. But until then, I guess this is kind of my unofficial Dallas video. And I'm very excited tonight to have gotten those 4 seasons to really round it out. Now, if I can only get to season 14 and those movies, I really like the movies. Especially the one that was done in it was like a mini-series. It's 2-part, was Dallas, the early years, where it talks about the characters of Jock and Digger Barnes. Yeah, I know I didn't mention Digger or much about the Barneses, because if you want to see me do like reviews of any of that stuff, or want to see me get more in depth with it than I've gotten today, let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below. This is like Nostalgia Critic said with his review of Mamma Mia. It's probably going to be one of his least viewed videos to date. And he was okay with that, because something that he wanted to talk about, and he had a reason behind it. So did I. So let me know if you have or ever watched any nighttime soap that would be considered nighttime soapy. Not just the Game of Thrones and stuff, but the stuff that's actually the Dallas, the Nuts Landings, the Flamingo Roads, the Yellow Roses, the Falcon Crest, the many different shows that are right there Thanks for watching. For me right now, I want to get my tea warmed up, so I'm going to make myself a new tea because I didn't think the video was going to take this long. Have a great night. It's time for tea for me, and I think that me and the giant lobster head over there, I think I'm going to go watch some Dallas. Have a great night, and go YouTube the original theme to Dallas. It's like the opening season. Dude, like the opening montage thing. Really, really has a good sound to it. Good soundtrack, good theme that really pumped you and made you actually excited to watch something. It's one of the better themes. Check it out if you haven't. If you're one of the newer viewers and you were too young to realize to watch the show when it originally came on, and maybe you've only seen the new show, or maybe you haven't even seen that. Give it a watch. Give it at least a look. Give it a check. See if maybe there's something there that you're missing out on. It really is that good. Thanks for watching.